Another day, another naira. Yeah, all about the Azikiwis this time. Yeah, that's what the hustle is about.
I didn't hear that coming at all.
I know, that's the idea. So yes, indeed, at 19 degrees centigrade, humidity this time here is about 50%, and so nice and early, lovely scenery. So not a bad idea if you decide to take a walk again today. Some mornings you might not be out of place if you have your mask, because it's quite windy and sometimes it could be a little dusty. But all the same, lovely scenes this morning from here in Abuja. This is the area we call Asokoro. Isn't it lovely? Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Sunrise this Friday morning. I'm Chamberlain. What's up?
Thank God it's Friday. Good morning and welcome. Cheers to the weekend already. I'm Maupe Ogun Yusuf. Over now to Lagos.
And in Lagos, of course, it is no less beautiful. As you can see, that is the Marina train station in the city of Lagos State. That it runs the Blue Line for now, which was launched September 4 last year. And between then and earlier this year, within the first 3-4 months of its operation, it has moved 583,000 passengers. Until, well, of course, the numbers would have increased by now. This is Lagos, and as you can see, it's a beautiful skyline, road transport, rail transport, and water transport celebrated here in this one picture on your screen right now. Good morning. This is Lagos. Welcome to Sunrise Daily. I'm Ayo Makinde.
Who saw that 3-in-1 combo? I just reeled that right there. What is going on here, man?
Well, that's the beauty of Lagos now.
Okay,
that's
no problem. We'll take it. We'll take it on the chin. Well, we do have lovely scenery in the country, so yes, why not? Whatever you can. So, well done. Nice one. So, tourism potential of this country is huge. So, need we say more on that one?
Absolutely.
All right, let's move a little bit further in terms of bringing you what will be happening today in different parts. So we scan the entire area. Have a look at this one. You remember this case? At least you remember the man, Faruk Lawan. Well, yes, his case is coming back. It's making the rounds again this morning. Well, some time ago, the Federal Capital Territory, yes, the Supreme Court will be listening to this. His appeal, at the point, the FCT High Court in Apo had sentenced him to 7 years imprisonment for taking bribes while serving as a chairman of that House of Reps ad hoc committee investigating the fraud around the fuel subsidy regime. So Court of Appeal in Abuja then affirmed that conviction, and then I think they also talked about the certain $3 million bribery charges preferred against him by the federal government sometime in 2012 as well. So it's been going back and forth, and this time it's going to be in the Supreme Court. So who knows how that will go this morning?
Well, it's very difficult to believe that this matter is still in court. How many years after? But at least, the subsidy for which this was for, or which this was related to, is now, is it over?
That's a big question now.
It's a very big question because marketers are insisting that no, this is not the market price of fuel. But at this point, who cares? Who can take any more in the price increases in petrol? I don't know if the average Nigerian can. But it will be very interesting to see just how this matter plays out. It was really scandalous in the day. I don't know. It's surprising to know that this is still in court.
Well, let's just take you back memory lane in case you might have, of course, moved on, and rightly so, to a lot of people. But just have a sneak peek of what it was at the time. What was the hoopla about? Here was why. Have a look.
Yes, I don't bring it to my house.
Okay, you take it to your house?
No, I don't bring it to my house. It's a lot of money.
Yes. So where? Because I'm rushing to the airport now.
Yeah, they're at the airport in the aircraft.
And before they can come over now, unless I send somebody to the airport, I was coming. I can't. By the time they come, I should be in the chambers. I have a lot of things to do myself.
Is there anybody you trust I can give it to? Or maybe I should postpone my China till tomorrow.
No, it's okay. I would arrange with someone. Number is 080.
Hold on. 080.
36. 51. 33. 55.
What's his name?
Yeah, TJ.
Sorry?
TJ.
TJ.
No, TJ. TJ.
Okay.
Yeah, TJ.
So I'll give him the balance. That's
Okay.
$2.5 million, yeah?
That's right. Hold on. I'm calling him to be sure he's finished.
Well, the saying after that was, whatever was done in darkness will come to lightness. It was true then in 2012. It's still true today. Well, let's take a break now. We'll be back to review the papers.
Welcome back. Let's run you through some of the dailies. We'll start with New Telegraph this morning. Plateau killings. Enough is enough, says Abbas to meet Tinubu. Police arrest suspected perpetrators of Bokos Mangu attacks. Khan condemns killings, appeals for calm. Insecurity. Military identifies hotspots, deploys special forces, battlefield enablers. So that's what you see there. But at the bottom strip as well, gas constraints liable for current low power generation, TCN. So huge one right there. And just so you, in case you've forgotten, same-sex marriage illegal and natural. FHQ, others arrest of culprits. So that's what also features on the front page today.
Okay, well, there'll be a lot to talk about on that one, but maybe we'll leave it for the morning brief. Well, take a look at what Vanguard has on its front page. Plateau, neighbors rejoiced while they burnt our house. That's according to a survivor. That's really sad. Page 5 is where you'll find details. They thought we were burnt to death in the house. Police confirm arrest of 9, recovery of 10 corpses. We won't tolerate any further security breaches. That's from Governor Muftuang. Tension in Kerang as security men kill woman, shoot 3 others. NIO calls for restraint over killings of members. We remain neutral, committed to protecting lives, property. That's according to DHQ. Notes trending video spreading falsehood about military personnel. And you also see there, Speaker Abbas to meet Tinubu, 6 ends to Plateau killing. So that's right there on the front page of Vanguard newspapers.
The same story is highlighted on the front page of this Nigeria newspaper today. Insecurity. Military deploys special forces in troubled sports, says DHQ. And look at the rider. The armed forces will destroy the cancer of terrorism that is ravaging our country. Troops neutralize 94 terrorists, apprehend 214 in 1 week. Well, so much to say about this one, but as Mark was said, I'm going to stand on that existing protocol. That's the lead story of this Nigeria today.
Okay, I wonder what protocol that. Okay, take a look at Vanguard next. Unease of doing business. I beg your pardon, The Guardian. Unease of doing business. You know, they have ease of doing business. Now, this is unease of doing business. How checkpoints, bad roads, block trade, spike inflation. So, you see the impact of bad roads and illegal taxation in Nigeria. That's a lot you see here. So, I guess we'll go ahead and break it down in a bit. But Ibadan explosion, FG gives security agencies 2 weeks to review reports. So that's what we find here on the front page.
Daily Trust is next, and you see this one. It's from their dialogue, Daily Trust dialogue. Masses are losers of Tinubu's reforms that's attributed to Labour. Says federal government running prodigal economy. President desirous of making life better for all. That's according to the information minister. Now it's time to interrogate renewed hope agenda. That's according to Kabiru Yusuf. There should be consequences for failure. From Shamsuddin Osman, a former minister. Federal government must listen to citizens' perspectives from Jega. That story is on page 17 of the paper. Let's leave it there for Daily Trust.
The Nigerian Observer leads with something about pure water. And it says, Benin City pure water makers strike props up smaller brands as residents reassess loyalty to major brands. Hey, we hear that thing said that nature abhors vacuum. Well, that's the lead story. Continues on the inside pages.
Leadership Friday. Military passes the buck, blames residents. This is about Plateau crisis. Police warn faith leaders against escalation of crisis. 17 suspects arrested, 10 bodies recovered. Nigeria security challenges severe, as ascribed to Blinken. So that's Leadership Friday.
I'm taking a look at Business Day this morning. You have to ask, are the rich getting richer with this headline? Dangote Rabiu Adenuga gained 15.5 billion. Is that dollars? Yes, you saw right. Dollars in 3 weeks. That's what's on the front page. So, talk of rich getting richer, poor getting poorer. I don't know. Is the poor getting poorer? I don't know. You might want to read the details. What did you start the program with, no? It was all about the Azikiwe ways.
That's right.
But I think it's all about the Benjamins right on the front page of Business Day.
I see.
Ayo.
Well, can we just talk about the Clementi songs for once? Well, the lead story of the Blueprint newspaper this morning is about something as equally interesting. Ex-CBN Governor Sanusi, those against relocation of CBN departments playing dirty politics. That's the way it is couched on the front page of the Blueprint newspaper today. And look at the writers. Says, more eminently sensible, says move, eminently sensible, but children of politicians in Apex Bank not ready. It's unpatriotic not to tell the truth. Ndume replies, Karimi. Find the details of that continue on page 8 of the Blueprint newspaper today.
All right, so let's just, some of the things that stick out here, as highlighted by most of the dailies here, is this Plateau matter. And so you get to see the narratives coming through from the military when they did say that the front page of New Telegraph highlights that herder militia were the ones saying they were responsible. They triggered the scenario in Bokos, the crisis we're facing in Mangu right now. So this herder militia has been on for, it's just that several persons have said to late Professor Adisa had said that at the time he did a lot of research on that. He said that there's a certain group of people who usually come through, they call them to come and do certain things. And so now that the military has said this, there'll be several questions concerning, so if this is the case, remember the federal government did designate a group of people as terrorists. Now, those groups of persons who were terrorists, they are those who wield machetes, arms and ammunition of any kind whatsoever, which this militia fall under. So they're terrorists. So how come terrorists are operating under this security watch? So does DSS know about all of this? What have they done about it? Is the police aware of this? What have they done about it? Is the military saying herder militia triggered this? Are they aware of any herder militia? Who are these herder militia if they're not terrorists? So if they're the terrorists that they've been designated as such, Why are they still operating? What are the security agencies doing? Were they the ones responsible for all the other crimes that have been happening in different places? What are they doing now to make sure that this kind of scenario never happens again? Several questions for security agencies, and they should know that if they do nothing about this, having been so designated, you know that several people may just have their backs against the wall. And remember, ultimately, we want to ensure that we avoid gun runners. If people are left with no choice, if people are down, remember what they say. He that is down is fear no fall.
Well, really, Chamberlain, excuse me, the situation on the plateau, it really gives cause for concern. And it's a good thing that the police say they have made some headway, they have made some arrests. I hope that there will be a thorough interrogation of those who have been arrested to even get more intelligence, and hopefully they're truly the people involved in this, these atrocities that we're seeing on the plateau.
The country has seen how security agencies can respond to any group called terrorists.
Indeed.
They've seen it with IPOP, they've seen it with Boko Haram. They need to see it with this group, this militia group.
Indeed, and I don't think anybody can fault that. But I would like to, highlight those, the story on the front page of The Guardian, especially for those who are concerned about the ease of doing business. We've talked about how we need to grow certain sectors, and agriculture is one of those areas. We've since found out that one of the problems is not just that, it's not the fact that we're not producing enough. Some people argue that we don't, but some other people say we actually do produce enough. The problem for us is the link to the market and preservation. So I'm hoping that there will be, a second look at this story. Those who are concerned, how checkpoints, bad roads, block trade, spike inflation. By the time they get to the market, half the goods are spoiled, especially if they're perishables. And it's, when there is scarcity, prices go up. And that's basically what is also causing the inflationary trends that we're seeing. So I'm hoping that there will be a second, and you don't have to go outside of the Federal Capital Territory to even see it. Just driving within the Federal Capital Territory at night these days. Now, while we want security to do their job thoroughly, but I also think that they should do it in a way that is, considerate of the masses, and also still in a way that is efficient. When you stop vehicles and it causes a backlog, it causes a whole hold-up, you have to ask, is this the proper way to go about it? Is this the proper way to do it? Are there more efficient ways that we can set up? Because some people have said roadblocks might not be most effective. Maybe patrols might do the job.
Motorized patrols?
Yeah, motorized patrols. They might cost more because of fuel, but they certainly will get the job done as well. Yeah. So I'm hoping that, we will not just pay, this will not just be something that is on the front page of a paper. It should be something that is of concern to us, because there are things within our control. There are things that we can do things about. So let us hope that those who are in charge of, roadblocks, those who are in charge of bad roads, within whatever domain, do something about access to the market and make the life of the farmer a bit easier. I'm hoping that there will be a little more thought towards that. Let's leave it there for the Guardian newspapers.
I'm interested in what is happening on the front page of the Daily Trust, and I think there's a kind of tie back to what you highlighted, Malcolm. Masses are losers of Tinubu's reforms. That's what Labour is saying. And we also see the Minister of Information replying on the front page of Daily Trust newspaper that the president is desirous of making life better for all. Well, it goes back to what we say often about how intents and purposes are communicated to people in a way and at a level that they will actually take ownership of. So, on the one hand, everyone believes that the fuel subsidy needs to be taken away. On the other hand, we had and still have questions about the process or processes around it. Now we're talking about the consequences of taking away a subsidy. Now we have also heard the federal government, through various agencies, say, okay, well, this is going to happen for a while. It's going to sting a little, but after some time, it's going to abate. Like you take an injection, it stings you, and then after some time, you get over it. But no one is really talking to Nigerians on a regular, consistent basis to continue to hold their interest in these conversations around the fact that it's going to sting for a while. As far as Nigerians are concerned, the pain is unbearable. And that is what Labour is saying, essentially just echoing or re-echoing what the people are saying. That is why on that same list of subheads, you find Professor Tahiru Jega saying that the federal government must find a way to listen to what the citizens are saying. So the government has a duty, owes it a duty, to ensure that people not just hear, receive the information, but there is actually communication. There is that thing that people say, okay, we understand what the federal government or state government is saying or doing. We agree. We're going to wait a while. And for those of us who cannot wait, it is now the citizens that will be communicating to other people and say, don't worry, it's going to get better. It's like an organization. You work in an organization and things are not going the way it is impressive to every member of staff. Some have to be part of the ownership. If they are not part of the ownership, they're going to continue to raise issues. And where that discordance is obvious, there is nothing anyone is going to say that is going to persuade the people. What you highlighted, Malkwe, as to the consequences of certain action of fellow Nigerians is definitely affecting everyone. So if the federal government is taking initiative, taking some of these reforms, and Labour is taking the stance, what are the states doing to at least cushion, cooperate, and alleviate some of the pains that people are feeling in the different domains of these people in the various states where they find themselves? It's one of my takes on this particular issue, Chamberlain and Malcolm.
Well, yeah, I mean, government officials, ministers, president, they all need to know that at this point in time, all of these policies is, yes, they can talk the talk and in terms of expectations, but they need to walk the talk. They need to ensure that these policies, they need to give people the idea and let people actually see that they know what they're talking about. So, yes, the masses, well, I don't know if we could say getting the short end of the stick at the moment, but yes, they're feeling the pinch. And the president, most of them say that too. We know it's tough, but give us a little time. How much time will this time be then? So that's the thing. So I don't know. Of course, it cannot be the entire 4 years. No way. After all, there's going to be performance appraisal. So will they reshuffle certain things this year, early next year? If the results he seeks are not coming through, how quickly will he do that to send another message that, listen, I need quick results. Results, results, results. That's what this is about.
Well, at least most people are giving the president a year. Maybe he'll be kind enough to his ministers, but let's give them a year. We don't know, because really, I don't know if Nigerians can afford kindness to ministers. Let me be more specific at this point in time. We really need people to get to work and show that they know what work is demanded of them at this point in time. Chamberlain.
Yeah, all right. So we'll be back in a minute. Don't go away.
The journey to success is not always smooth. There are rough patches on the path to accomplishment. The struggle continues until solution appears that launches you to the world of your dreams, protecting, securing, and ensuring that you reach your goals. At International Energy Insurance, we know that the journey to actualizing your dreams could be tough, but we are always there to support you and help you prepare for the unexpected. International Energy Insurance is a Nuremberger company now positioned to serve you better. International Energy Insurance PLC. Energy to care.
Discover Lipton's flavorful and balanced taste. We pick fine quality tea leaves from selected tea gardens around the world. give you Lipton Yellow Label's flavorful and balanced taste in every sip.
Abubuwa da yawa yau. Albarka. Ovaltine kyakkyawan zaɓi domin yara masu basira.
Three governorship appeals are set for conclusion at the Supreme Court as the deadline for all appeals end. The courtroom is filled with supporters and litigants. The five-member panel commenced proceedings with the dismissal of the appeal of Mr. Tonye Cole of the All Progressives Congress, Rivers State, against the election of Governor Siminalayi Fubara. In dismissing the appeal, the five-member panel held that Mr. Cole did not prove his allegations of overvoting, non-compliance, as well as non-qualification of Governor Fubara to contest the election, and accordingly, the appeal was grossly lacking in merit. The Apex Court also affirmed the victory of Governor Ahmed Aliyu of Sokoto State, dismissing the appeal of Saidu Umar of the People's Democratic Party. The Apex Court held that the appellant did not demonstrate that the two lower courts were perverse in their judgment and did not also show evidence of non-compliance with the Electoral Act. While affirming the victory of Governor Kefasagbo of Taraba State, the Apex Court held that the case of the appellant, Professor Sani Yahaya of the New Nigeria People's Party, was incompetent and lacked merit. According to the Apex Court, the Court of Appeal was right in holding that the case of Professor Yahaya was incompetent on the grounds of incomplete transmission of the record of proceedings. Outside the courtroom, it's jubilation for the winning parties.
As you would have noticed, all the issues were resolved in favor of the governor and the People's Democratic Party, and the conduct of the election as conducted by the Independent National Electoral Commission.
This is a judgment that is a victory for democracy, victory for the rule of law, victory for the people of Sokoto State, victory for the APC, and victory for our governor, our deputy governor, and our leader, His Excellency, distinguished Senator Aliyu Magatakadawamako. And I want to urge everybody, the peace-loving people of Sokoto State, to join hands with the Governor Ahmed Aliyu Sokoto FCNA to develop a new Sokoto State for the peace and development of our dear state.
Eventually it will come to an end and the truth should be revealed. You understand? And today the God has affirmed the truth. You understand that APC is supposed to win election legitimately, legally.
Mr. Tonye Cole also reacts to the judgment.
Of course, there's disappointment that we did not win because we believe that we had a very, very good case. But that notwithstanding, I want to congratulate all Rivers people for just seeing this through. And at the end of the day, I want to wish the governor, Siminalayi Fubara, all the best.
The decision of the Apex Court settles the election of these governors. Now they can focus their attention on the issues of governance.
Let's have some conversation around that which you saw before that name slide with our guest, as you can see, among other issues. Dr. Austin Tam George is an alumnus of the Harvard Kennedy School of Government. He's also a former Commissioner for Information in Rivers State. Thank you so much for your time this morning.
Thanks for inviting me.
But before we continue, I'd like you to listen to this from the governor of Rivers State.
For the entire state, it's important for us to note that we need this victory to consolidate on the purpose of governance. We have had a few distractions here and there, and the good news that came to us this morning is a refreshing strength that will ginger us to continue the work of governance. I want to commend the President for his fatherly role on every issues that concern our state. Not just the crisis, but also this particular litigation. It will also be unfair for me not to appreciate the minister, my Oga. I want to say thank you for all their support. And I want everybody to realize that Rivers State will have a dream of making it a highly competitive state.
Governor Fubara of Rivers State there, what do you make of that?
No, I think he captured the sentiment out there very, very correctly. You know, the litigations are over now. He needs to focus, and I think that the whole of Rivers State, and in fact, Nigerians need to support him to make sure that his agenda, which is very robust, I've seen the budget that was passed, you know, very robust vision that he has for the state. You know, now that the litigations are over, the onus is on everyone to support the government to make sure that, you know, Rivers State, you know, is now going to be in the headlines only for development, for progress, for creation of jobs, you know, and to move the state in a direction that is different from where we are now. Well,
let's speak on Rivers a little. Quite a number of contentions and contestations before this Supreme Court judgment, even before the elections. Do you see this judgment or the comments of the governor assuaging, you know, all frayed nerves?
I think so. I mean, you know, he has the mandate. He's been confirmed by the Supreme Court. He's been, you know, I know him very, very personally. You know, when I was in government as Commissioner for Information, he worked in the government house as Director of Finance. He's a very, very committed gentleman, very patriotic, and has a clear vision about what he wants to do for the state. I think that, as he said, you know, there had been some distractions, you know, before now, but ultimately, you know, the Supreme Court has now entered a judgment. And what this means is he's got total legitimacy to pursue an agenda for development of the state. Rivers State since 1950, you know, since 1958, you know, has been the source of, you know, economic growth for the country. You know, when, you know, oil was discovered in commercial quantities. When eventually the state was created in 1967, it became clear that Rivers State will continue to serve as the economic base of the country. So this is a very pivotal state, and the governor, from what I've seen, appears to have the commitment to drive the state in a different direction. I think we all now need to converge around him to make sure he brings development to our people on a sector-by-sector basis, and to support him.
Listening to the governorship candidate of the APC also speaking and saying he wishes the governor well and all of that, what overtures should be made by the governor or from the government? What kind of body language do we expect from the government of the state so that everyone can actually come on board and support these lofty ideals that you talk about?
No, Toye Cole is a very brilliant man. I know him as well personally. He is not the kind of person that will not be able to work with the governor. What we now need to do is to see that, you know, whatever competing visions that they have concerning how the state should move forward, this is the time, you know, for them to come together to say, okay, how can we, you know, galvanize our people? How can we contribute ideas on a sector-by-sector basis to see how we can drive development is in the state. I have had discussions with Tony Cole, informally on several occasions, and I've been very impressed, with his own ideas about how the state should be redirected. And I think that there is no much difference between his own vision and that of the governor. And more importantly, the governor has struck a very good note of conciliation by saying, look, I don't know it all. I'm very available for, different ideas to come to the table. And I think this is the convergent point now for everyone to work together to see how we can move the state in a different direction. We have one of the highest unemployment rates in the country. There is no reason why we should suffer the kind of unemployment crisis that we have in Rivers State. We have a lot of children out of school over the past 8 years. This is the time, for the government to work together. And I've seen the budget, that was proposed by and now signed into law by the governor. Very massive development is coming to Rivers State. And so my appeal as someone who has been in the State Executive Council and someone who has a stake in what is happening in the state is for everyone to converge around the governor to make sure that on a sector-by-sector basis we're able to deliver service to our people, because the purpose of government is not endless distractions and litigations. The purpose of government is to drive development to the doorstep of our people and change their material circumstances.
Twice you have mentioned the budget, and how about what do you make of the contestations around that one? We'll go to other states, which the Supreme Court, decided on. But what's your take on the contestations around the budget? When the members of the House are asking for a representation by the governor. Because
I understand that there are all kinds of litigations even on the budget. I don't want to comment on that, because the matters are in court. But what is clear, I think, to everyone is that, at the time the governor presented the budget, he presented it to a legally recognized, body of lawmakers. And so it's been already signed and gazetted, and it's now the basis for government intervention in the lives of our people. So my suggestion would be for everyone to converge around this and to try to drive development on the basis of the vision, that the governor has articulated.
Well, let's see whether or not the members of the House will listen to you and actually pull the case out of court. But to the other cases that have been decided by the Supreme Court, you spoke about Rivers State having one of the highest unemployment figures. At the last count, NBS believes that's the Nigerian Bureau of Statistics believes that Sokoto has the largest population of multidimensionally poor people in Nigeria. How do you see this decision of the Supreme Court validating that the election of the governor, helping with that?
No, I think all governors, in one of my earlier appearances on this show, I always mentioned that, all the 200 million or so Nigerians are disaggregated in different states. So sometimes we give disproportionate attention to the federal government, forgetting that the state governors also have very important roles to play in terms of alleviating poverty, pulling our people, into productive activities. The state governors, wherever they may be located, whether it's in Rivers State, whether it's in Sokoto, they have very serious responsibilities. They have clear budgets, they have action plans. What they need to do is to make sure they galvanize the very best. And when I mean the best, some of the people in some of these states may not even be career politicians. They may be experts, development experts. They may be all kinds of technical. They have all kinds of technical expertise. Once we are talking about governance, what this means is you need to broaden the scope, bring all kinds of people, including even Nigerians who are not necessarily politicians, to help you to set the agenda, to drive development to the people. So the tendency to always consider governance as just an arena for politicians is wrong, because then you limit the pool of wisdom from which you can draw. So what I am suggesting is that open the space, bring as many people as possible who have something to offer in terms of development, and make sure that you are tapping from the genius of your own people, to drive development. So whether it is in Sokoto or in Cross Rivers or in Bayelsa or in Rivers State or anywhere across the country, let us make sure, that we fight multidimensional poverty through inclusive governance, which means bringing as many people as possible. And, you talked about communication earlier in your program. The communication chain ought to be that of, the people talking to the government and the government also talking to the people, not just the government communicating what it wants to do, but there has to be this symbiosis. There has to be this needs assessment. What exactly do the people need on the ground? So that by the time you have this kind of, feedback mechanism between the people and the government, you narrow the gap of misunderstanding, and then you go closer and closer to the needs of the people. And I think that this is the time when development ought to come to the people. Politics is done now. We need to drive development quickly.
Is politics really done? Because, a number of states, in some parts of the country, we still have situations where one politician or the other is only reacting and not responding to the issues that are raised by the state government or the other way around. In various parts of the country, including in Taraba, Rivers, and Sokoto, where decisions have been made, and several other states that have been previously decided, we'll still find situations where the opposition parties in those states are only looking out for one thing. What is the state government not doing right? How do we reverse that trend to get to the point where, as you said, everyone in the city, in the state, take ownership of the state, not just because we are not in power, but because this is our state and we must make it better.
If opposition politicians, are part of a larger process, they are part of a larger mechanism for holding those who actually exercise power to account, then that's good. I mean, that's what opposition politics is about. But what I'm advising against is this toxicity, that we found, that characterize our politics, this tendency towards bellicosity of politics, that removes attention from the real issues that concern the development of our people. So, there's a fundamental difference with that. If opposition politicians are holding the government to account, they have an alternative vision, they are making sure that at every point in time, government is responsible for the development of society. That itself is a very important role. But what I am advising against is a situation where politics continues to be belligerent, continues to be toxic, continues to be, violence based. We've tried that for so many decades, and it hasn't worked. So what I'm suggesting is we need to change direction. We need to bring the issues that materially affect the people back, into the discussion and say, how can we make sure that we reverse the trend where we have the largest number of children out of school? How can we make sure we run a more inclusive educational system? How can we make sure that we think beyond certification and credentialism to make sure that we rethink our educational system to emphasize skill acquisition, such that not only are people able to create jobs for themselves, they themselves have higher employability by the time they leave university. How can we make sure that governance itself means delivering service to our people? That is what I am concerned with, and that was what in the first place drove me into government eventually, in the course of my own career. So the most important thing that should animate politicians should be, how can we bring development to our people? Opposition politicians have a role to play to make sure that they monitor the activities of government and suggest ways, by which government activities can be better. But we should make sure we minimize toxicity in our politics.
Suggest ways. That's one of the things that we hardly tend to get these days. But before we go to other issues, how significant or striking is it for you that in all of the Supreme Court decisions, not one of them did we have a situation where the court overturned the decision, overturned an election of a governor? In this particular space, we've had previously where the governor is removed from office by the Supreme Court and maybe a rerun or someone else is declared governor. In all of the cases for this election, not one. How significant is that for you?
Well, we already know that there is this tendency to suspect, the believability, the transparency of our electoral process Once elections are held, my own personal preference, Ayo, is that leaders in this country should be chosen right there at the polls. The fact that electoral outcomes are litigated from the tribunal to appeal to the Supreme Court is not a good sign, Ayo. It's not a good sign. Now we have a situation where a collection of unelected judges up to the Supreme Court will have to decide who should be governor, will decide who should be president. I've said it many times in all my career that the people should choose their leaders right there at the polls. And what is demands of the electoral umpire is that the system should be manifestly transparent, such that the results are acceptable right there at the polls, so that we don't go through this toxic process of litigations that make no sense.
Is it really that, or incursions? Because some people, for instance, you heard the governor of Rivers State saying he was thanking the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, not just for what the crisis that he intervened in, but even for this decision. And almost every governor that has been validated keeps saying the same thing, thanking the president for not interfering. And that suggests to anyone, then some would probably say, okay, maybe previous president interfered in the affairs of the judiciary. But this president is saying, nope, I'm not going to interfere. And the politicians are thanking him for not interfering. So is that any kind of sign to you?
Look, I prefer to just look towards the ideal. For instance, I lived for such a long time in South Africa in the course of my career, and I took time to monitor the electoral process in South Africa. At no time, did outcomes of elections become such a contentious issue in the courts to the point where people had to thank the president or thank anyone else, because the system, the electoral process, was always so transparent that people who lost knew that they lost fairly, and those who won knew that they won fairly.
Are you saying that our own process is not as transparent as
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. What I'm saying is that the electoral process in this country needs to be completely rethought. We need to make sure we bring greater transparency and acceptability to our process in such a way that the outcome will be so convincing and so manifestly transparent that those who lose will know that, look, I did my best, and I can see very clearly that I lost fairly, and then there will be no need for litigation. My sense is that those who go into litigation do so because they have very great doubt concerning the transparency of the electoral process. And the point I'm making is that we should be aiming towards the ideal where the electoral process is so transparent and acceptable that once the people cast their votes, everybody believes that, look, I think this has been a fair process, and there's no need for litigation. Okay. Don't forget, Ayo, that, in the final analysis, these litigations are extremely expensive. By the time you move from up to the Supreme Court, they are very expensive. And my suggestion is that if we bring greater transparency and accountability and acceptability to our own electoral process, there will be lesser and lesser need for people to go through such an extensive, and time-wasting litigation process.
Well, incidentally, Plateau State is one of those states which the Supreme Court decided on, validating the election of the Governor Muftuang. That was before this recent one. It's also in the same Plateau State that we've had this crisis that's repeated a little too frequently these days. What do you make of all of the back and forth? The headlines today is filled with lots of stories on Plateau State. The DHQ, that's the Defense Headquarters, also making its own side known about that particular thing, saying, for instance, that they have deployed special forces in trouble spots, and they are saying that they are going to destroy the cancer of terrorism and all of that, especially concerning the Plateau killings. And the same military had told us through one of their officials, senior officials, that this is a case that's been on for about 10 years or more. What do you make of all of this?
The death of every Nigerian within the borders of this country concerns me, and it should concern everyone. You know, the killings have gone unabated. You know, it's been going on for such a long time. And now we see that even the audacity of the criminals, these terrorists, you know, appears to be increasing. What that requires us to do is that we need to think again about, you know, the security structure that we have in place. I would have thought that, you know, we need maybe to place an emphasis on intelligence gathering. We need to make sure that we deploy our military resources, you know, to very remote communities. In the case of Plateau, from what I've gathered, you know, a lot of these communities, you know, are just vulnerable. They're like sitting dogs, you know, waiting for terrorists to come and ravage them. I think that we need to completely rethink our intelligence gathering mechanism. We need to involve the communities more and more, you know, in policing work. We need to make sure that we rise to the challenge of protecting the people, which is the primary responsibility of government. You know, I haven't seen a great sense of urgency in the way some of these killings are tackled, and it's very unfortunate to think that each and every day, you know, we hear only stories of tragedy in some of these states. You know, the killing in any killing in any part of the state within this country, it should be a concern to everyone.
You know, what's also concerning is what the military also says about that particular issue, that they are admitting that militiamen, there's a herder militiamen, which is what triggered this latest crisis. And for this to be going on for so long, it begs the question of whether or not we're not allowing things to just simmer only for them to be provoked by one thing or the other. What is missing in the area of communicating with the people? What is missing? What are we not saying? Because every time these things happen, people die. Yeah, we lose property, but more importantly, people die. People lose loved ones, they lose families, they lose fathers, mothers, children. These things need to stop. What should we be saying to our people?
What is very intriguing, Ayo, is that, you know, these terrorists and militants and bandits, so-called, you know, they come into these communities with such audacity. You know, they commit these crimes, they behead people, they rape women, sometimes in broad daylight, and sometimes they even take them away in motorcycles. It's astonishing to me that our military is somehow unable, you know, up till now, you know, to rise to those kind of things. I mean, in these days when people are using automation, people are using drones, you can see everywhere in this country by simply using drones. Okay. It's astonishing to me, frankly. Okay. So what I think we need to do is the military needs to completely rethink its methodology of gathering information, and if they want to deploy, you know, a special force, I think that would be good, because I know that in the U.S. there are specific, you know, teams, you know, that are assigned to specific assignments, but we need to see results.
Yeah, thankfully they also made that promise that they're going to do, they have or are going to deploy special troops. But Chamberlain and my colleagues in Abuja have questions for you as well. Go ahead, guys.
Morning, Dr. Sam. I'm just taking you back to Rivers. So given the back and forth that went on and how invested several people were, how easy or difficult do you think it is for them to heed to your appeal, to sheath their swords? Because don't you think that at some point that divide may show up? Who knows when?
Well, you know, that's part of what I've been saying. You know, the governor has been very, very clear that he's open to work with everyone. And my sense is that in a state of 6 million people, you know, very progressive, open-minded people, Rivers people are one of the most cosmopolitan in Nigeria. We accept everyone, you know, in Rivers State. So if we can do that to people who are not even from our state and who are residents in our state, we should be able to work together no matter what the ideological or political persuasions might be that are different. And I think the governor said the exact right tone yesterday yesterday when he accepted the verdict of the Supreme Court. So my own suggestion always is to say we should bring back the focus on development. As I said, we've had very embarrassing situation where Rivers State has been in the headlines for the wrong reasons for too long. The toxicity and bellicosity of our politics is embarrassing to every right-thinking Rivers person, both in the homeland and in the diaspora. And now we have a unique opportunity to work with the governor to make sure that we bring development to our people. I can't help but, refer to, the governor's developmental agenda. I have been in government. I've seen some of I've seen a lot of these things at close range. But I can tell you that the vision that the governor has put on the table is so robust that he can't even do it alone. We need everyone, at this point in time to put, differences aside, and work with the governor. We have 6 million people to answer to. We have a lot of hundreds of thousands of children who are in school that we need to make sure that the government means something to them. Pensions had not been paid for so many years, and I think the governor has made a commitment to go back to some of these areas and try to lift the people out of poverty. If you look at the budget I keep referring to, for the first time in about 10 years, the governor has increased the budget for education by 57%. It was never the case. So this is a clear indication that the governor has his heart in the right place, and he wants to make sure he brings change on a sector-by-sector basis. He can't do it alone. No single person, however gifted, can do that alone. So my suggestion and appeal is that let everyone come together and try to support the governor to achieve these things for our people.
Let me just bring in this other matter as a communication professional, because people tend to sometimes underestimate the importance of proper communication. This decision that the CBN and FAN appear to be taking for some of their units to be relocated to Lagos seems to be attracting all sorts of commentary. Do you think it was handled properly?
Well, I've been following the needless controversy. I say needless because, the movement of one department or the other from one location of the country to another shouldn't be a matter for controversy. As I said to Ayo here a few minutes ago, I lived in South Africa for a long time, nearly a decade. The seat of government, the administrative seat of government is in Pretoria. But I lived in Cape Town where the legislature had its headquarters. So, we need to have this sense of disaggregation of government locations. So the most important thing is whether we carry the people along and whether we communicate the intentions very clearly. My own suspicion, about this so-called controversy about relocating some departments of the CBN to Lagos is that we still think in this primal, this sectional way, in this country. What we should be thinking about is, will the CBN be more nimble? Will it be more agile? Will it be more responsive to the needs of the economy? That should be the most important concern, not the location where you work from. CBN is a federal concern. It has branches all over the country. I remember there's a CBN office in Lagos, and I suspect there are CBN staff there. So anywhere you are posted to, you should be able to work. So long as it's within the borders of this country. So I think some of these things are not necessary. In fact, I think that the logic of relocation of some of these departments should go as far as different sectors. We've seen in the oil and gas sector where there is so much detachment, from the region where the oil and gas is actually produced. We have now a situation where decisions are made about oil and gas far away from the actual locations of these resources. So maybe this is the time for policymakers to see whether those who decide who are key players on a sector-by-sector basis should move closer and closer to the sources of raw materials and sources of major activities. So I fully support the relocation of relevant departments to other parts of the country, not just Lagos.
Interesting perspective there, but so many other things to discuss. But now that we've touched on communication, I guess we'll take it on some other time. Dr. Austin Tam George, former Commissioner for Information in Rivers State, as well as an alumnus of Harvard Kennedy School of Government. Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks for inviting me.
Well, one of the issues that Ini and her team will be taking on when they come on for Business World is agriculture. Ini.
Thank you so much, Ayo. And yes, communication, even when we have great policies, the communication of it is very important. Thank you so much. I'll take it up from here. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Business Morning on Sunrise Daily. So we'll do a rounds now in just about 25, 27 minutes. So we'll begin up at the global space where oil prices eased on Monday after rising to their highest since December in the previous session, but we're set for their biggest weekly gain since October. Let's look at the numbers right there. It's a red, down almost 0.5%. We'll tell you the factors driving it, but let's see the prices. Yesterday at this time, we saw that Brent was at $80. It gone beyond that. It went beyond that and now dropped 0.46% to settle at $82.05 for a barrel. WTI from the United States, that is, still struggling around 70s, $76.86 a barrel, and down even worse than Brent at 76.86%. Now, when we look at the factors driving it, we see that demand sentiment improved after the data yesterday. I know you didn't miss that story of the U.S. GDP grew higher than expectations for the fourth quarter of last year. We also see that Chinese officials, of course, have asked their Iranian counterparts to help rein in on attacks or risk harming business relations with Beijing. However, the Houthis are vying. That's talking about the issue with the Red Sea. That's still on and still a factor when you consider prices of global, both grain and oil. Talking about grain now, Chicago corn, soybean, and wheat futures were a little changed, consolidating near 2-week highs as participants assess South American crop weather and awaited U.S. export data and macroeconomic news for further direction. Looking at the price now, corn on the Chicago Board of Trade was down 0.06% at $4.52 for a bushel. Corn and soybeans have recovered, from multi-year lows this month, while wheat has pulled back. Soybeans is on the flip side. It gained 0.04% at $12.49 for 3/4 of a bushel, and we see their wheat up also 0.1% at $6.11 for half a bushel. Investors are bracing for European Central Bank interest rate announcement, as well as that U.S. growth figures that we had yesterday. The grain market, meanwhile, will be receiving a demand update from the weekly U.S. export sales data later on today. Now, let's come back home and see what's happening with the Naira. Yesterday was another drop, especially in the parallel market. Data gathered from FMDQ, BDC, and ProShare show that the Naira plunged to a new low at the BDC's close. And at the NAFEM, that's the official, 900 Naira 96 kobo. That's not the worst we've done for NAFEM, while BDC's close 1,410 for a dollar. That's is a new low. We also have our eyes on the pound. The pound also yesterday closed at 1,750. Canadian dollar was just about 1,000 for both BDCs. Now, a very worrying scenario. The implications have been x-rayed. Not today. We've done that even this week on Business Morning. Let's go to X and see some reactions to that Naira. We got a post from Olufemi Awoyemi. He's the founder of ProShare. Right there, he says that well, we know that a couple of days ago, the central bank governor had said that the Naira is undervalued. Well, he says some say it is undervalued, others say it's fair value calculation and is distorted by multiple rates regime. Others say it's hard to even get. Despite all of this, the Naira continues to reflect the productivity levels of the country, not the promises and pondering of public officials. It's economy, guys, not politics. That's the view of Olufemi Awoyemi, the founder of pro-share. We also have the views of Mr. Moghalu. Kingsley Moghalu is a former deputy governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria. He said the problem with the Naira is not that it was or has been floated. In any case, we no longer have the oil revenues for various reasons to underpin the managed float with robust foreign reserve. The real failure of the Nigerian economic policy is that of having failed to diversify its economy away from reliance of natural resources. And he goes on to give a solution that the level of political will required to change course is extraordinary and requires a focus on merit and competent technocratic management rather than acronym empowerment based on vested self-interest. None of this actually gives us a lot of hope or a lot of solution, but I mean, these are conversations that's been going on for a while. The BDCs have said, well, why don't you capture both the informal market, into the formal window? Then that might boost supply and we might find a fair value of the Naira. But it's obviously an ongoing one, but a disturbing one, because when we think of the impact of this drop in the value of Naira on businesses, business overhead, operational costs, it remains a source of worry for everyone. Now, let's take a quick break. We also have a message in that break. We are campaigning, we are asking the Central Bank of Nigeria that the POS charges have gotten really high and the ATMs are empty. Who is supplying the cash to the POS and leaving the ATMs, leaving Nigerians with no alternative but to face extremely high charges for POS? Why should we be buying the Naira in Nigeria? Very disturbing. Those are questions to ponder on, and once again, we call on the Central Bank of Nigeria to intervene, for the sake of the common Nigerians who are now left with no alternative. The ATMs are dry, and then you have to buy Naira with Naira, buying dollars and buying Naira too in the country, not a very pleasant thing to happen. A couple of days ago at the NESG Economic Outlook launch, we did hear the Central Bank of Nigeria's governor, Dr. Laimi Kadoso, saying that the Naira is undervalued. Well, let's listen to that and set the pace for today's conversation.
Foremost among the factors contributing to this positive outlook is the expectation of improved crude oil prices and production, highlighting the crucial role the oil industry is expected to play in driving economic growth. Inflationary pressures are expected to decline in 2024 due to the CBN's inflation targeting policy, which aims to rein in inflation to 21.4%. This will be aided by improved agricultural productivity and the easing of global supply chain pressures. We believe that the Naira is currently undervalued, and coupled with coordinated measures on the fiscal side, we will expedite genuine price discovery in the near term. We are implementing a comprehensive strategy to improve liquidity in our FX markets in the short, medium, and long term. Our focus is on addressing fundamental issues that have hindered the effective operation of our markets over the years.
All right, well, another important issue is the issue of food security. We remember that July 2023, that the President Bola Tinubu, had declared a state of emergency on food insecurity in the country, gave some orders and some instructions. Have we seen much with that? Now, the Food and Agriculture Organization is saying that this year, 2024, 26.5 million Nigerians will be threatened with food insecurity, grappling for staple food. Those are not pleasant numbers. There you have it, some of those unpleasant figures that we have. Nigeria ranks 109th out of 125 countries when it comes to food security. Score is 28.3 in 2023. Food inflation, no longer news at this time, above 30% for December. And remember, that's President Bola Tinubu had said that there's food emergency, state of emergency on food security. I wonder what that means and if it's done anything since July up till now. We did Christmas and food inflation was still going up. And now it gets worse with the stories of killings in areas that should be providing food for the country. So we have these risks facing the country in 2024 when it comes to food security. Post-harvest losses, about 50% of what we produce is lost because of preservation, lack of value chain, implementation and infrastructure to transport, from farm to gate. Subsistence farming is still a major one in the country. Farmers still use hoe on their farms. Really sad. But let's talk about this. Let's have this conversation with the food and agriculture representative in Nigeria, Mr. Dominic Kofi Kauko. He joins us from our Abuja studio. Mr. Kauko, thank you so much. Good morning.
Good morning.
So FAO has said that about 26.5 million Nigerians will be hungry this year. Could you tell us some of the factors considered to get this figure?
Okay, thank you very much for these questions. But before answering you, I want really to thank the government of Nigeria for the very good and nice collaboration between FAO and the government of Nigeria. I want also to thank and wish Happy New Year for all the Nigerians, especially for the Federal Minister of Agriculture and Food Security and the Minister of State also. Before answering your question and talking about Nigeria especially, I want to put this in the very big perspective. Today, when we take globally in West Africa, according to the result of the Cadre Harmonisé IPC, we are around 26.5 million of persons in food insecure. And that is not acceptable regarding all that we can do here in West Africa. On these 46.5 million of people, if you take especially Nigeria, today we have 26.5 million according to the last Cadre Harmonisé that we did in last November. Why we have 26.5 million of people of food security? That is because of three root causes. Unfortunately, the first one is related to the conflict. Today, I take West Africa, because of the conflict, we have 5.5 to 6 million of displaced and refugees people. On Manvem, you have around 70 to 80% that were agriculture or livestock. If I come to Nigeria, we are around 1.7 to 2 million of displaced people because of the conflict. And that is very difficult. Today we have some conflict that they affect more than 10 years that we have a conflict. So they are like 10 years that the farmers and the breeders, they cannot farm. If I want to put it in perspective, that means that it's someone who worked during 10 years without salary. And that is one of the key root causes in our region, especially in Nigeria. The second one is the climate change. If you take in the Sahel region, in the past 20 years, the quantity of water reduced by more than 40%. End of 2022, beginning of 2023, we have the flood issues. In Nigeria, we have around 600,000 of acres of land, agricultural land that are affected. If you succeed to harvest this land, we are able to feed 3.3 million of people because of the floods. So that is the second root cause is because of the climate change. The third root cause is why today we have 26.5 million of persons in food insecurity is the economic shock. In the economic shock, we have three different kinds of shock. The first one was the impact of the COVID. The second one of the economic shock is the impact of Ukraine crisis. FAO, WFP, and ECOWAS, we did a survey of the impact of of the Ukraine crisis in our region. The result was we have a deficit of 1.2 to 1.5 million of fertilizer in the region. That means that we have a deficit for 12 to 15 million of cereals in our region because of the impact of the Ukraine crisis. The last one is the inflations. We can talk about fuel subsidies. We can talk about the funds that move from one day to another that will have a huge impact on the productions. So because of these three root causes that we are facing now, the conflict, the climate change, and the economic shock, in our region now, and especially in Nigeria, we have three kinds of typology of crisis that we have. The first one, we are facing the Sahel crisis. The second one is the spillover of the Sahel crisis on the coastal countries. And the third one is the economic shock. So this is one of the reasons that's why in our West Africa we have 46.5 million of persons on food insecurity. A man that we have in Nigeria, 26.5 million of persons.
Yeah, and that's a huge number. But I know you mentioned most of them. Yeah, but so let's look at them. I know you said those are the three major root causes. But I wonder which of them should be the focus or, the major targets of the government when we look at it. Post-harvest losses, subsistence farming, budgetary allocation, quality of seedlings, national security, a major one, transportation and supply logistics. Which of them, talking of moving forward now, which of them do you think, okay, there we have the others, escalation of the Middle East, the tension going on, Russia's withdrawal, we know this affects our grains, interest rate hike, because every business is affected by then, the cost of funding. Currency fluctuations, we just hit a new low at the parallel market yesterday. Long-term impact of climate change, which you have also referred to. Which of them do you think that the government should focus on if we really want to get, fast and reduce that 26.5 million projection that the FAO has given?
I think when I see yourself, the ranking that you do, I don't know if you can have the first one that you put the food lost. You know, it depends from one country and others, but in Nigeria, I think that we are between 50 and 60% of the food lost. Can you imagine? It's too much. From the production to the processing until that arrives to the market. That's why today we talk about agro-food system transformative. That's why we need to have a holistic approach, not from the farm to the plate, but to the plate to the farm. It's what we need to have now. So we need to focus on the post-harvest losses. Why? Because at least if you succeed to reduce by 50% the post-harvest losses, at least we can save or we can feed more people. That is one. Secondly, we need to add more added value on what you produce. We need to work on how we can process, how we can add, have the final product that we can give straight to the people, to eat. So for me, this is what we need to work on all from the productions until the final product. That's why we are now focused on agro-food system transformative now. So this is some things that we need to focus on. And that's why we, FAO, we are ready to support the government. Jointly, we are working.
All right, so
it's good to budget and economic planning.
Yeah. So it's good to know that the FAO is ready to work. But what area can the FAO assist? You know, you talk about post-harvest losses, reducing that and adding value to our crops. What area can we expect assistance from the FAO this year?
This year, we are focusing our approach that we call it on the 4 betters. The first one, we are focused on the better productions. The better production, that means that we have to give more resilient seeds and livestock to people to allow them to produce more. Giving fertilizer to allow them to produce more. Help the farmers, train them to choose a very good soil that can have a very good yields. That is the better productions. The second one is the better nutrition. Today, FAO, we are working and we are mainly on the prevention of nutrition. I don't know if you already heard about it, but this year will be the Tom Brown years. The Tom Brown is to use the local food, processing, and prevent malnutrition. So we are working together with the Commissioner of Health in Maiduguri to see how we can produce it. I just came from Yola, Maiduguri. I'm preparing myself to go to Lagos to see how we can work more on prevention using the Tom Brown as one of the key drivers of malnutrition production. So better nutrition. The third one is better environment. We need to have a very good environment to have a good productions. If you work hard on these 3 betters, we'll have a better life. The better life is to have the agribusiness, to work about transformative, to work what we call it the transformative agenda, to have people to work on innovations, use more technology to achieve the better life. So we have 2 categories of people. We are focusing on the people in need that they are to allow them to boost their production, but we are also focusing on the private sectors to help the private sector to better support to achieve these 4 betters. So this is one FAO we are trying to do this year in 2024 to achieve all of us the goal of zero hunger on 2030.
All right, thank you so much. We certainly will look forward to the FAO's contribution and in achieving, those 3 set out goals for 2024. Country representative of the Food and Agriculture Organization in Nigeria, thank you so much for your time this morning.
Thank Thank you very much again. Thank you for inviting me. It's one of the best channel in Nigeria. I wish all the people, all Nigerian people, all the best for 2024. And thank you again.
Thank you so much for coming, and we appreciate your comments. All right, now let's just dash through the markets. Well, I've been promising that we will go into the fixed income market. That's exactly where we are going to now. Of course, the NGX is still blooming, went from 101,000 to 102 at the close of trade on Thursday. Still worth celebrating, but let's turn our attention to the fixed income market. I hope we can have the numbers on the screen to see how that market did yesterday, beginning with the federal government bonds. We saw that there were 22 deals yesterday worth 10.65 billion naira, and we had the June 2053 bond security as the most favored yesterday. 5 deals on that, the 21 June 2053 long-term security getting attention. And then we go to the treasury bills where there were 155 deals worth 136.55 billion. Omo open market also, of course, traded yesterday, but just 4 deals worth 30.2. CSB also had 2 deals. Now we have James Ola Adisa, fixed income analyst with Chapel Hill Denham, joining us this morning. Hi, James. Good morning. We've been having to promise and push you, but thank God we have you today on a Friday. Give us an overview of the market this week, the fixed income market. We know that the equities market is doing so well at this time, but what's going on right there in the fixed income market?
Okay, thank you for having me. So the fixed income market has been trading with mixed sentiment. I think the primary market option was one of the regional.
You have a feedback, James. Maybe you have 2 devices on. Do you want to mute one? Because I can make out what you're saying. I can hear feedback.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you now. So go ahead, please.
So let's start with the primary market. In the primary market, the CBN came out to roll over about 231 billion naira worth of treasury bills. We saw demand levels significantly high. And this was evidenced in the 4.38 or 4.83 times bid to offer ratio. And in absolute terms, we saw subscription levels go as high as 1.08 trillion. Right? But the CBN stuck to its targets. They exited the market with exactly 231 billion naira. And typically what we would have expected is that the unmet demand would filter into the secondary market and we would see buying interest in the secondary market, but we saw that the secondary market remained quiet. Average yields at secondary markets remained at 6.08%. Benchmark yields specific. Right. So what we believe is that investors are shopping for better yields elsewhere, and that is why we do not see the unmet demand filter into the secondary market in the treasury bills space. In the bond market, right, we saw the offer circular come out. The DMO has yanked off most of the 50s as a longer tenured instrument, and the longest tenure now is the 2038, which is a 15-year bond, accompanied with 3 other 10-year bonds, right? And this triggered buying interest in the bond market. We saw that as the offer circular was released, yields at the long end of the curve, rather, contracted by about 30 basis points. Right? This was as a result of buying pressures from traders who expect that these longer tenured instruments would be scarce in the market, and as such, it drove their buying sentiments. So that has pretty much been what has happened in the fixed income market so far.
All right, thank you so much, James Ola Adisa, for giving us a summary of market activities in the fixed income space for the week. Fixed income analyst, Chapel Hill Denham. Over back to the Sunrise team, Ayo, Malpe, and Chamberlain. Over to you. One of these days, I hope I'll get you into the markets.
Welcome back to Sunrise Daily. Yes, indeed, we've got Honorable Ogene Ego, who is a member of the ECOWAS Parliament and was in the House of Representatives from 2015 up until 2023. Good morning and thank you for coming on today.
I'm honored to be around once more.
Well, you know, this matter about the CBN and FAN, some of these agencies or units that will be relocated to Lagos, not getting all thumbs up. Some, in fact, Northern Senators Forum, we understand, did kick against that strongly alongside some of the senators who think that it is a wrong move and they think that it may cost the president politically.
Well, I'm surprised that a simple administrative decision, you know, is making senators, important people like that, representing a major section of the country, coming up with arms for war. What is the story? The CBN said their office in Abuja is designed to take just 3,000 people. Right now, there are about 5,000 people there. If there's a small disaster, you know, a lot of lives could be affected. But beyond that, the reason that 90% of the head office of banks are located in Lagos, and this is not political. Nobody asked the banks to stay in Lagos. They are staying there for commercial purposes because they feel that's where they have a customer base. And the bank branches in Lagos alone is more than almost the entire north put together. And the people who are supposed to supervise these branches, the operations department, all the people are in Abuja. So they have to take flight ticket to go to Lagos, stay in hotel, and then supervise.
They also argue that, does it then mean that because the oil resources come from the Niger Delta, we move NNPC to the Niger Delta, or because the agri sector comes largely from the north, we move Ministry of Agri to the north? That's part of the argument.
No, that does not come in. For instance, when you talk about the oil sector, what they need to move into the oil producing area are the oil producing companies like Shell, like Total, you know, all the companies that produce oil. It's reasonable for them to be in areas like Warri, Port Harcourt, etc.
Well, NNPC is no longer that kind of regulatory body. They're also in the markets now.
Yes. So if NNPC is directly inside the oil DC, they have to be where the service. For instance, you look at something like MPA, for instance. You know, MPA, the biggest ports, largest ports are in Lagos. It doesn't make sense for MPA to be in Abuja. Because if in Abuja, somebody who is importing it, and a clearing and forwarding agent, a shipping company who has a small thing to discuss with them at the national level when they have problems during the clearance of their work, we have to take flight ticket to come to Abuja, stay 5 days looking for who is going to see. These are to the cost of business. And these are the things that foreigners are complaining about. So what we are saying is that it is reasonable for FAN to move to Lagos because 70% of all the international flights, they originate from Lagos. And FAN is to service them. If there are problems, these are service. So what are they doing in Abuja?
So politicians being... Okay, yeah, go on.
Politicians are saying, oh, they must be in Abuja. What they need to know is that Abuja belongs to all. Who founded Abuja? The chairman of the committee that brought the capital to Abuja, Justice Akirola Aguda, is a Yoruba man. In fact, I can say it's a Lagosian because he was living in Lagos. He was the one who reasoned as the chairman. They looked at so many areas. They could have said, oh, let's take it to some other areas in the southwest that is not too congested. But they brought it to Abuja. So they should know the decision to have Abuja is not a northern decision. And Abuja does not belong to them. Let them look at the past elections in Abuja. It's not only Northerners that are winning, and it's not only Northerners that stay in this south. Everybody who stays in Abuja has a stake in Abuja. Just like the minister is running up and down, Minister Wike is running up and down to ensure that these kidnappers and others are no more harassing people in Abuja. So the Northerners should know that Abuja belongs to all. They should stop saying, oh, this is our Abuja. And a man like Udube who's leading them, you know, this is a man who have aspired to become Senate president twice. If he became a Senate president, will he come out and be saying things like this? That, oh, this belongs to the North. Why does it belong to the North? because it's the capital.
Well, I don't think it's
shocking.
I don't think it's the entire. When you say Northerners, because I mean,
no, it's not the entire Northerners, but this Senate, the group led by Udube.
So politicians being who they are.
Yeah.
What then happens? How do you see this playing out if it gets to, if it's a matter that will eventually go to the National Assembly or the Senate, for instance?
No, if it goes to the Senate, I'm sure the Senate will be reasonable enough to listen to the reasons. Look at Emir Sanusi. It's come out. He was the governor of Central Bank. And he said it's a reasonable decision. How can you be supervising job that is 80% of it is in Lagos, and then you are hiding in Abuja, and then when you want to go, you have to take flight ticket. If there's not enough money to for flight ticket, it shows that the supervision of the banking sector is going to suffer.
Did he say why he didn't do while he was CBN governor?
Well, no, not everything may come to his mind at that time. He had his challenges too. But if the present governor have looked at it, and I'm sure that the banks in Lagos would have been complaining. They are not servicing them well. And that is where they are. And again, like I said, the banks are in Lagos not because government asked them to stay in Lagos. They are staying there because that's where the commercial activity are. And those who are supposed to regulate them, there's a big office here.
All right.
There's nothing wrong if they stay in Lagos.
Okay, so let me just take this in. We understand that the Supreme Court has affirmed 5-year sentence of former House of Representatives member Honorable Faruk Lawan for receiving a bribe of $500,000 from Femi Otedola. Well, would they tell you that the Supreme Court was going to look into that matter, and now they have. So they have affirmed 5-year sentence of former House of Reps member Faruk Lawan for receiving a bribe of $500,000 from Femi Otedola. So that matter has been on for a while, and now this is the final one. So it means that, you know what they say, appeal to God after that.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's the nail on the coffin there. But let's come back to what it is that we're discussing. You have expressed shock on, this uproar, as it were, this backlash.
It's unnecessary.
Trailing what ordinarily should be an administrative decision.
Economic decision.
So some people will say, have politicians taken it too far?
Yes, politicians have taken it too far. For instance, for Senator Dube, a man who is highly respected and revered, very kind man, is one person that I like a lot. To come to say, Tinubu will have problem with the next election. The vote that elected Tinubu is not from Lagos.
Is it not being realistic?
No, because the vote that elected Buhari is not from Katsina State alone. Every president is elected by all the people from the country. It's not the vote of the whole Northwest that elected Buhari. So everybody gets votes from everywhere. And that threat is unnecessary. It's unnecessary because after Tinubu, others will become president.
No, but
and if they take decision...
When I'm talking about politicians taking into... I wasn't even talking about what has been perceived as a threat from, Senator Ali Ndube. I'm talking about the fact that politicians interfere in almost everything. These days, it's very difficult. Some people will say, when governance starts, when we now start to take decisions in favor of governance, it's so difficult to draw the line between where politics ends and where governance should start. Do you think that this should be placed squarely at the feet of politicians?
I agree with you. The duty of course, the House of Rep, the Senate, National Assembly, is to make laws, do oversight, and do appropriation. But they shouldn't go into the nitty-gritty of areas they don't have capacity to handle. A man like Sanusi, who knows what job is part to do, have come out openly to say, look, there's no problem about it. And they are even going further to say, they want to relocate the capital from Abuja to Lagos. I'm sure if somebody is running for election in Lagos, and you say, if I win, I will relocate the capital from Abuja to Lagos, the person will lose the election. Because where are you going to put it? In Lagos? Is it Yaba? Is it Ikeja? Lagos have even developed into Ogun State. In fact, Lagos is begging Ogun State to do some joint program for housing so that Lagos can stay in Ogun State and come. Is it in Badagry? Everywhere is choked up. So,
but there's nobody... be a bad idea. That's just
that's by division. But there's no place there to carry federal capital. You know that. Even Ekpe, All the major things Lagos is doing that, they're moving the truck, man.
Well,
and that's only land left.
The
presidency
has already intervened on that particular matter. Yeah. That matter of moving the capital. They said, look, this is.
But politicians have been mischievous by bringing it up.
Indeed, but the presidency has already said this is something that is backed by law. So they have no intention of even delving there at all. I'm just looking at the fact that this is the kind of conversation that we're currently having.
It's not good for the country. It's not good. In fact, we at the National Assembly should restrict ourselves to our primary function. You cannot go into CBN. CBN have given you the reason. Majority of the banks, the work they have to do is in Lagos. Why keep all of them here while the banking hall in Lagos is empty? Lagos is not looking for more people.
So so some people will say this is symptomatic of something else.
Yeah.
This protest that we're hearing, and we hear it all of the time when it comes to, I don't want to say sharing the national cake, but wherever it is that you have any thing that has to do with national interest, what you now begin to find is that people begin to look at what is the need for my own people, what is the need for these people, what is the need for that people, rather than looking at how it benefits the totality of the country. So how do we begin to address this? Because some people also point to deep divisions, nestled within our polity, which we're yet to really get past or even yet to, mend over.
The best way to do it is for government to stand on their position, those who are in charge. For instance, the CBN issue. The governor of CBN should stand by his word and do it. When you talk about the FA, and that is Federal Airport Authority, the minister should stand by his word. Some of these departments were just brought to Abuja hurriedly within the last week, 2 weeks of the former minister leaving. Changed everybody, brought everything to Abuja, which is unnecessary. Because 80% of international travelers, international flights that leave Nigeria, they leave through Lagos.
I have listened to that. What I'm saying is, what this points to, because it points to deep divisions, and this is not just. This is the latest that we're hearing, right? There have been other agitations.
Yes.
There have been other types, and some people we even link it to, and you might not agree. You're allowed not to agree. Issues of resource control, issues of our representation. We need to be there. If something is happening in our area, or if something is going to be happening, around us, the person who should be heading it should be from our area, rather than about what qualification or what competence that person brings on board.
I agree with you for issues of resource control. It's, for instance, like an area that produces so much money from VAT. You then carry that money and you share it equally. There are some states, the governors don't bother to work hard to ensure that they collect money by VAT. There are a lot of resources on ground to collect VAT. So much gold is being produced in some parts of the country. All this gold, if you combine it, could be as much as the money that comes from oil. But the governors here and the people there are just sitting on it. They could get a lot of VAT. They don't do that. And then the people who provide good governance to labor business to thrive in the area that has VAT, you say you want to share it.
So in other words,
so there should be the resource control.
So that's the political class is responsible for some of these challenges.
Yeah, they are. But again, there's a need for resource control. When you produce, you should be rewarded. So as to encourage every other person to produce. Even in America, all over the world, you cannot be the one producing and others are just sharing it. Then at the other end, you say, why do we need to produce? So it will happen. Again, like you said, everybody wants to fight for his area. But we should do it in a way that benefits the entire country. Because if the economic policies are benefit the entire country, your area will also benefit from it. But if you must kick against everything, all this must be in my area, whether your area will be able to handle it well, whether benefit will come to it from the nation, you don't care, provided by area. I think that is bad. We should look at the country as one.
At what point do we begin to do that? At what point do we begin to say, no, this is, doesn't matter which area anybody comes from, this is national interest. Yeah. And at what point do we begin to say, well, yes, politicians are allowed to, play
the area it will happen is when government restructures the country. When the country is restructured, every state will begin to work. As bad as electricity is, You see, a lot of the states, they don't bother. Whereas every state can produce even 10,000 megawatts of electricity for their people so that some industry can happen in their area. But so long as they believe that at the end of the month, they come to Abuja to share oil money, they don't bother. You can imagine the First Republic when Ahmadu Bello built, they built Ahmadu Bello University in the north. Awolowo built University of Ife. Zik built University of Usuka. You know? So at that time, there was competition. There's resources come to the center, but every area take 50% of what they produce, you bring 50 to the center. When you get at that, there will be competition. And more money will come in because states that were before dormant, doing nothing, will now begin to work hard to generate more income. For instance, there are some states where you have a lot of cows, for instance. The government should show interest on how to provide grazing areas to spend money for them so that tax and VAT that will come from those cows will help the state to grow. But they don't do that. You allow it to wander up and down, destroy people's crops, destroy farmers' crops. At the end of the day, no profit comes out of it.
Ayo.
So we need to restructure. And I'm happy that
Honorable, just 1 second.
About it recently.
Yeah, just a second, Honorable. I mean, depends on whose book or whose notes you are looking at. You know, this continuous talk about restructuring, because it will seem like sometimes the pushback is actually coming from the politicians. One example is something that you are also very conversant with, and that is the area of full autonomy, financial and administrative autonomy for local government administrations all over the country. Efforts have been made several times by the National Assembly, including times when you were there, for the Houses of Assembly to agree to full autonomy, administrative and legislative autonomy for local government administrations. But that has not been able to happen because there is no consensus at the various levels, especially Houses of Assembly. So if we are going to restructure, and some people, some in the political class are pushing back about certain things, how then can that restructuring happen?
Yeah, the blame for that is squarely in the hands of the governors and the House of Assembly members. You know, a local government chairman, some of them have more vote than one particular House of Assembly member. And then the House of Assembly member is querying the local government chairman. The local government is a completely different tier of government. They are supposed to be independent. They have been independent from the beginning. And we amended the constitution twice, you know, to include it. But the governors and the House of Assembly wouldn't let it happen because most governors are stealing money from the local government. As a result, the local government are not able to do their work. So we are hopeful that with the experience of the current president, we will be able to rein on the governors and the House of Assembly to do it. Because the House of Assembly members, they forget they will not stay in that position forever. And when they leave office, you see them be offended when House of Assembly decides to sack the local government chairman who they labor to vote for. So at the end of the day, we still need a lot of work on the constitution. We need a lot of work. Talking issue, for instance, about policing. Look at everywhere they are killing people. Plateau State government is helpless because they don't have their own police. Katsina State government is helpless. They don't have their own police. Sokoto, the same thing. Even in Niger State here is the same thing because they don't have their own police. So if you don't have their own police, how can they fight, what do you call it, kidnapping? How can they fight all this killing by bandits everywhere? So every government needs its own state police. It used to happen until Agui Rossi stopped it after they took over government in 1966. You know, that's where all these problems started happening. When they issued Decree 4 that removed all the rights of the states and handed them over to the federal government. So we need to go back there. And nobody will be hurt. Enough money, more money will be coming into the federal government coffers. And
just a quick one, Honorable, if you can hear me.
Seem to be scared.
Yeah, just one quick one before I return the mic to Chamberlain. What do we need to do to engage the elites for everything good and right about this nation, particularly this insecurity and equal prosperity, national prosperity that we're talking about? Elite consensus, particularly among the political class. How should it be approached, and who do you think should lead the charge?
Does it go ahead?
Please go ahead.
Can I? They should lead the charge. You know, the president and the governors should sit down and agree on all these things. Once they agree, the governors will talk to their states, House of Assembly, while the president will be liaising with the Senate and the House of Rep. Because we cannot continue like this, because this country, it is like a father who has about 10 children, so decides to go to farm, so decides to go to school to produce. But once some other children know that, oh, the father still has some money, all they are doing is eating. One day the father will die, and then the children will die of hunger because they are not producing anything. And that's what happened in the case of Nigeria. A lot of the states don't want to produce anything. There's money to share in Abuja. And the money to share in Abuja is so small.
All right.
You know?
Well, thank you very much indeed for coming on.
Thank you.
All right, let's take a look at some messages coming through. This one is from Bumi, who was talking about this same subject matter, relocation of some government agencies. He says, the hue and cry over relocation of government agencies is uncalled for. We should stop this ethnic, religious sentiments and entitlements. Surprisingly, the hollow chambers, like the Senate, is also getting itself involved in this despicable act, Bumi says.
Well, I see this one from, I think this is from the Minister of, this is to the Minister of Health, from Dixon Eka.
Yeah.
And drawing attention to what is happening at the National Hospital. Says, is the Honorable Minister of Health aware of what's going on at the National Hospital Abuja, which houses the National Trauma Center, which ought to be the best hospital in the country? Their service is one of the poorest of any hospital in the world. They give expired drugs to their patients. Attached to this meal is an expired drug which they gave a pregnant woman who is on antenatal care in their hospital. They are asking if we can investigate what's happening at the National Hospital from their clinics to their pharmacy and the laboratory. This is from Dixon Eka, who is living in Abuja.
Well, let me take this tweet from Festus Akinboyewa, who says, even if God sends the most senior angel from heaven to conduct our elections, there will still be issues, and politicians will still gamble by challenging the elections in court. Many of the 2023 election cases are pure gambling. Wow.
There's another one there by Umar Abdullahi. Same tweet says, well, I think he was talking about what happened earlier. Well, he says, we read this mind, that's myself and Mark, where when Ayo mentioned that the 3 modes of transportation in Lagos all in one place, he was like, whoa, he never saw that coming. Good one, Ayo. Okay, this is Lagos indeed. We hear you. I know. All right, so there you go. Wait a minute, there's another, that's the last of the messages, isn't it? Okay, so that wraps it up then with a look at some of the feedback coming through from you all this morning. So that is the show as well today. We do thank you all for watching. We'll see you tomorrow. No, next time.
Well,
I wanted to be sure they were listening.
Maybe he will see you tomorrow.
I needed to be sure somebody was listening. Okay. I'm Chamberlain, so goodbye.
Well, I know that I most likely will see you tomorrow, but I'll see you again tonight. So do stay tuned. Thank you for watching. I'm Maokbe Ogun Yusuf.
Please keep loving Nigeria. We got only one in the world. I'm Ayo Makinde. Do have a pleasant day and a beautiful weekend.
No matter where they are, if it concerns the people, we are there. From community game changers to homemade solution providers, where assurance and trust are built.
Policing should be people from the community who do the job. You don't bring an outsider.
We hear about Amotekun. We've not seen much of them around this area.
Documenting journeys of many starting big from a small place. Creating an intentional community where people go beyond living together to building strong and more friendly communities. Community Report, only on Channels Television.
I'm Ifeoma Williams, your guide on this transformative journey.
Welcome to Transform Her, the first of its kind on-air coaching program exclusively on Channels Television.
I define a product as that perfect thing that people are ready to part with their money for.
In a male-dominated environment, being required to uphold a position of leadership.
The good, the bad, the ugly, they all pull together to make you this woman and this person that you can be.
Join us in shaping the future of African female leadership as we provide practical resources for entrepreneurs and aspiring C-suite leaders. Every Wednesday at 4:30 p.m. West African time, we bring you expert interviews, transformative coaching, and the tools you need for exponential personal and professional growth. Transform Her, because it's time to unlock your potential and lead with purpose.